Hi, everybody, it's Weird Wink Wilkinson laughing and scratching at you. How's everybody doing today? I got a little bit of a stiff neck. Let me just fix this up. Oh, that feels a lot better. Well, I got a great show for you today with some wonderful weird stuff. I feel so very weird.
There are some things in this world that go way beyond human understanding. Things that cannot be explained, things that most people don't want to know about. That is where we come in.
No human being would stack books like this.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. I'm all out of bubblegum.
Well, it looks like you're the one who needs to be taught a lesson, pal. Class is paying 101. The instructor's Casey Jones.
Look, I don't want to fight you.
Well, tough rocks, pal.
Do you want some coffee, Mr. Tully?
Do I?
Yes, have some.
Yes, have some.
It's a cup of coffee in the big time, yeah. Cup of coffee in the big time.
Hey, what do you say we both be independent together, huh?
I guess one person can make a difference. Enough said.
We have the tools, we have the talent.
It's Miller time.
Luminous beings, so we, not this fruit basher.
Empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water. Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now water can flow, or it can crash. Be water, my friend.
You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
Hey, these aren't my rules. Come to think of it, I don't have any rules.
Well, that's great. Either I have a monster in my kitchen or I'm completely crazy.
I don't think you're crazy.
You know something? Maybe I am insane. Maybe I am insane.
Pizza dude's got 30 seconds.
Rise to the top, oh yeah.
That's the nicest thing a dog can say about anybody.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. Enough, I get the point. You know what you need? You need a Brazilian plastic surgeon.
I've got one that can see.
Sometimes happens, someone has to deal with it, and who are you going to call?
It's showtime.
All right. Hey, everybody. How's it going? Welcome to Comic Book Radio, episode 283. I'm your host, Peter Cimetti. Tonight, my guest is Michael ODEN. He's got a book out, or funding one anyway, called Elysian Fields Reborn. That's on Kickstarter. Before I bring him on, though, I want to share with you the fact that the newsprintcomics.com campaign, which is on Fund My Comic, we passed the second mini goal yesterday, thanks to the backers on board, and we're getting closer and closer to the third mini goal. We're about $1,500 away from that at this point. So the standard comic printer arrived here today. So this is like a little bit of a Christmas morning for me. And the mini comic printer, which would be a dedicated printer for that, that's going to get ordered next week. So the campaign is doing well. Thank you for spreading the word. Thank you for supporting it. We got a lot of big things planned with this campaign. So before I bring on Michael, let me say hello to you guys. We got Bretsky here. What's up, Bretsky? Good to see you. Citizen Ronan is here too. What's up? Says ODEN again. Man, this guy is everywhere. Is he making the rounds? All right, good to hear. We got Death Metal Hero here as well, saying ODEN and Pete. What's up, gentlemen? This is going to be a banger of a stream. Oh, okay, good. I'm glad you're looking forward to it. Cigar Gangster, good to see you, Cigar Gangster. Hope you're doing well. Death Metal says, I know I've told you this before, Pete, but I love this intro. I'm glad to hear it. Sometimes, I find most people really enjoy it. Some people don't. But I'm not going to listen to those some people. I'm going to listen to the vast majority of people who really like it. One of them is me. I really like it. So everybody else, it's 3 minutes or so. Deal with it. Citizen says hello to Cigar and Death Metal Hero. Citizen Ronan going woohoo for that printer campaign. I tell you, it's gonna be a lot of fun. I get to experiment tomorrow. I got everything all set up in the office area today, and that took a little bit of finagling. I thought I had the room for everything, but I was looking at it going, if I got this piece in place now, once I get the other stuff here, I need a little more room. So I had to do a bit of a workaround with some stuff, but everything is going to be all good to go. And the planning for how everything is going to be laid out is underway. So I'm looking forward to experimenting and tweaking the settings and figuring out what prints good and all that stuff tomorrow. That's going to be a fun day. Let's see. We got Chris Six Strings here. What's up, Chris Six? Hope you're doing good. And Death Metal is also excited for the printer campaign. I appreciate that, man. All right. So without further ado, let's bring him on, the man of the hour, one Mr. Michael ODEN. What's up, Michael?
Nothing much, Peter. Thank you for having me on, man. Super excited to be here.
Thank you for being here, man. I appreciate it. It's you were on here for an open mic, right?
Yeah, it's I was literally waiting to go on another show, and then I saw you had started your open mic show, and Fizz had come on, and there wasn't anyone else coming in. And I was like, you know what? I'm about to go on a show. This will be a great warm up. Come on, do the 5-minute pitch. It'll be great.
Yeah, man. That was like early April.
Yeah, something like that.
Wow, time flies.
Yes, it does.
When did your campaign launch? Was it already active at that point in time?
Yeah. We launched March 28th because that was the 5th year anniversary of when I did Elysian Fields issue 0. So this series is actually a complete reboot of the series that got me into indie comics. So it was a cool thing to kind of do, and it's been really great seeing how people have responded to the reboot, both in its artistic direction and storytelling, because the book's done. So we actually got, for the first 20 backers, they actually got physical limited edition signed proofs from me that I shipped out to them within like the first week we were live.
Oh wow, nice. What's different about it compared to the previous version?
Lots. For one, completely new art team. The art direction is way different, way more stylized. Has a very like Joe Mad feel, as you probably noticed. The old one had kind of like a Bronze Age aesthetic, like in terms of the art. And then the story in and of itself, I went through and I kind of hacked it to bits, kept some of the foundation from issue 0, but otherwise it's a completely different book.
What was the reason for changing up the art style so drastically?
Well, so when I came into indie comics back in 2020, I had like no experience, right? I didn't really know where to look for artistic talent. I didn't really know anything about anything. And so it was very much me learning. But in the time from when I started to where I am now, I've gone through and I've done a lot of different books, and I've learned how to look for talent. And I wanted to, if I was going to go back and do Elysian Fields again, because I'd had some people ask about it, I wanted it to be more representative of the comic creator that I am now. I wanted it to feel professional. I wanted it to really scream that, I kind of know what I'm doing now. Only a little bit, marginally. I don't think anybody truly knows what they're doing in this industry. It's all a learning curve, right?
Oh, yeah. So the story meant that much to you that you wanted to revisit it and do right by it, huh?
Well, it's been something that I've fascinated over since I was a kid, right? Like it's the ultimate death battle book. It's heroes of mythology duking it out in an underworld arena. And so the Zero issue was fairly successful, but its follow-up Pyramid Gambit really couldn't grab the, like, I didn't have a lot of returning people. And so I just assumed there wasn't really a market for it, right? Like people just didn't dig it. The big thing that actually changed my mind was I was promoting a book called Judex that I did with Global Frequency Studio a couple years ago. And we were in the green room after a stream, and I had a couple people, you're the guy that did Elysian Fields, right? When are we getting more of that? And I was like, where were you on the second book? But no, all jokes aside, after when I was doing Pyramid Gambit, I had started to release the original Elysian Fields on Webtoon as a way to try and synergize my marketing, like trying to grab new readers and try and convert them into backers. And so the entire original version of Elysian Fields is up on Webtoon. And so I went and I decided to go take a look, and we had over 4,000 reads, 100 subscriber with an average review rating of 9.78 out of 10. So I was like, okay, well, clearly I have something here. But as I said, that series in that form is very much not who I am as a creator now. I felt like I could do better in every regard. I wanted to really level it up if I was going to bring it back. And I think we did.
Yeah, it looks great. Who's the artist again?
So we have a fantastic art team. Our pencil artist is a guy named William Moore Reyes. He's worked on a few really solid indie projects. I think probably the one that most people in this space would be familiar with is he works with Rob Arnold on the Replicator series.
Oh, okay.
And then we have Tiago Gomez is doing our inks, who's worked with Dave Brink over at Genuine Comics. He's working on a bunch of Rippaverse books at this point, doing ink work. Really fantastic professional guy. And then our colors, we have a flatter Lou Winter, and then the colorist is this guy Ruvian, who's just absolutely fantastic.
Nice, very nice. So how did you come about with the idea for this book? Because I know you've got a lot of stuff here that's steeped in mythology and all that kind of stuff, but is that something you've always been interested in? Like what gave you the idea to do this?
So growing up, my dad used to read me the Iliad and the Odyssey as a bedtime story, right? So
that's pretty good.
Yeah. Sorry, I am overcoming a cold.
Oh, don't worry about it. It's this
always
time of year.
Fun. But so when I was growing up, I had these stories, these myths that really inspired me to get invested in history and all these other things. And then my brothers were big comic book heads as well, so they got me into comics. But then when I was in middle school, not only was I arguing with my friends about who would win in a fight between Spider-Man and Batman, it was who would win in a wrestling match between Heracles and Beowulf, who would win in a full-on no holds bar fight between Gilgamesh and Achilles. And that whole conversation, that debate has been something in my head ever since. And it was there's something here, there's a story to be told. And so that's really where Elysian Fields came from, just a bunch of nerdy kids arguing at lunch over which of their heroes was the coolest. And that conversation not just being modern comic superheroes, but the heroes of myth and legend. So it's one of those things that, as I said, it's always stuck with me. And doing Elysian Fields has been a blast because it gives me an excuse to go read these epic stories again. to do research. And B, I get to bring these characters of myth to new audiences and reintroduce them in a way that I hope is authentic, and make them do some really badass stuff on the page. And that's that's what we're all here for.
Do you have a favorite specifically?
Oh man. I mean, Achilles is probably my favorite character of all mythology, period. And like that's the reason why I chose him to be the protagonist, is because I think I have a pretty darn good understanding of who he is.
So he's the main character in this,
yes,
essentially?
Like so our narrative focuses on, we see Achilles' final battle at Troy. He dies. He goes down to the underworld. He reunites with his loved ones, specifically Patroclus. He gets to reunite with him for maybe 30 seconds before he's ripped away. Then he's brought to this arena where he has to fight alongside Heracles and Queen Hippolyta of the Amazons against all sorts of different heroes from different mythological pantheons to try and help Hades regain his dominion over the underworld. So like that's like the bare premise of what's going on in the story. And so Achilles is our narrative vehicle, right? I also felt like he was a good person to pick, because even if people haven't read the Iliad, Achilles exists fairly prominently in the zeitgeist between, there was a movie that came out in like 2004 called Troy with Brad Pitt playing Achilles, and everyone knows it. So I felt like he was a very good character to really focus in on and have the narrative focus around. And on top of that, it just so happens to benefit that he's probably one of my favorite characters in history / fiction. But in terms of this version, I have really enjoyed writing Hippolyta a lot. It's really interesting because Achilles and Heracles are like characters where there's so much written about.
Mm-hmm.
And so you don't get a lot of wiggle room. There is an expectation of who these guys are. And so you've kind of got to stick to a certain script. But Hippolyta has always been support cast. So her story is way more fluid. Like there's different versions of how she plays roles in all these different stories. So for her, there was a lot of, I could pick and choose which versions of Hippolyta's story I wanted to adhere to make the best version that fit within Elysian Fields. So she's been really fun to work with.
When I see something like this, it makes me think of a video game.
Yeah.
Has there ever been anything done like this as a video game, like a fighting combat?
I mean, the closest thing to it is like Mortal Kombat, right? Like, and that's usually what I lead with. Like I've gone to a couple conventions this year, and we had preview books of Elysian Fields Reborn, where we had like the first 12 pages for people to check out. And it would straight up be like, so at its base level, Elysian Fields is Mortal Kombat with heroes of mythology. And like, that's usually the hook that gets people to sit around and like, oh, like, tell me more.
Now, is this a complete story within this book?
So this is the first issue of an ongoing. I have Elysian Fields mapped out for 30 issues, and I have the first 5 written. And in fact, Will is working on pencils for issue 2 right now. He has 9 pages complete, and they're fantastic. So it's,
are we following Achilles the whole time?
It's gonna, like, Achilles is like the central character, but like Heracles and Hippolyta are co-leads as well. It's their book. They are a team. Achilles is our narrative vehicle into this world, and then he has to work with this team to move through the tournament, and they're going to be fighting all sorts of different people. It's really exciting.
That sounds awesome. Because I'm a storyteller as well, I'm just going to put this out there, and you don't need to run with it. And if you do, you don't need to credit me. Uh, Seeing this, it really makes me think of the story mode, the campaign mode for a specific character in like a fighting game. You know, you pick one character and then you go the whole way. And when you win, they get a different ending scene and that kind of deal. It would be really cool to see this done where each book is like from start to finish their story campaign mode, and they win it. So you automatically know, like, if you get the Heracles book, Heracles is winning. If you get Achilles, Achilles is going to win.
That would be a cool thing
and
to
it's
do.
like the viewpoint of each of them fall, and you see these little intersecting moments up until it turns into like they battle each other. Then that's where things skew differently for the main character in the book.
That's a really cool idea. I will say, so like we are planning on doing like multiple spin-offs for Elysian Fields where we do like little side stories for each of the characters. But I do think that that's really awesome. Like our first one of these that we announced is Song of Hippolyta. We're going to do like a whole mini series based, like focused on her. I plan on like I want to do one for Heracles. I just need to find the right angle. I think that's the fun thing, is finding a story to tell with these guys and having them go into this tournament.
Because they're each there for, you know, different circumstances, and they each want it for different reasons, and you know, see how it plays out when they do get it. You know, just a little bit of a hint of what's to come. It just gets the gears turning for what that potential story could be like. And it doesn't really matter knowing that they would win. It's more about, especially when you're reading them all, you would see that viewpoint. That would be kind of cool.
Oh, 100%. And I like it. Like, I love the idea of like doing these like little maxi series where it's like, we'll follow this character. Like, in issue 3, we're going to introduce like the Vikings, and so we have Sigurd, Beowulf, and Brunhild are there. So it's like having a thing focused on one of those guys, and having like a little maxi thing where it's like the whole point is that this guy's going to win their tournament, and it's going to feel like a Mortal Kombat, gauntlet of him just messing people up. I think that's a really cool idea.
That's awesome. Yeah, that sounds great, man. But yeah, it's fun when whenever I see something that makes me start to imagine where it could go. You know, I always think that's the hallmark of you're doing a good job as a storyteller with the idea at the very least, because it automatically makes you start having all these different viewpoints and perspectives that a story can go down, and it gets it to be more interactive. So kudos to you for coming up with a fun concept that I'm kind of surprised it hasn't been done yet.
Yeah. Like that's the crazy thing, is that you would think something like this would be way like a that's a no-brainer. Like, why haven't more people done it? And it's not out there really.
Yeah. And that's the thing, of course, you could have a million ideas, but it's about the execution. Like, do you execute those ideas? And if so, how well? You know, because everyone's got ideas. That's why it's nice to see you revisiting it and wanting to do right by it and continue the story in its entirety. How many issues do you think would the whole series comprise?
So, as I said, I haven't mapped out for 30. I went through and I as I said, like, I've learned a lot over the past 5 years I've been doing this. Between writing and editing, I've been attached to 9 projects since I started. And very fortunate in that, like, most, if not all, have run successful crowdfunders and have gotten out, and we've gotten some really good feedback. And so I really wanted to make sure that when I was doing this, like, all right, I need to have everything mapped out. I need to know everything about every single one of these characters, where they're going to be going, and what stories we're going to pursue. So, like, I have everything mapped out into it's 30 issues over 6 5-issue arcs.
Wow. Okay, man. That's relatively ambitious. Do you think that that's ambitious? I don't want to
I mean,
speak for you.
it's absolutely ambitious, Peter. But there's nothing in life worth doing that isn't, like a massive risk. And you know what? I might not get past issue 3 or 4. That there's a real chance of that. I could just end up falling on my face. But I do have faith in my stories. I have faith in the people that I work with, and I think that as this gets out there and more people see it, there's going to be more people coming in and coming to the door.
Very nice. Do you have any kinds of like ancillary kind of merch or any other plans to broaden the horizons of this if you do get the ability to do so?
If we get the ability, like if we really boom, I would love to do like a 2D fighting game, like just straight up side scroller beat 'em up fighting game, and just have people like, I would love to do that. And then I think it's like every comic creator's dream to have their comic book turned into a really badass animated series at some point. Like I would love that.
Very nice, man. I gotta dive deeper into your knowledge about myth and these
Okay.
legendary figures. You said that Achilles, you're very drawn to Achilles.
Yeah.
What specifically about Achilles are you drawn to?
I think that there is I think that one of the interesting things about Achilles is how misinterpreted he is. In all honesty, when you look at the Iliad, there is this, and it's funny because like I got in the middle of this discourse about it on X, I think like 2 weeks ago, where it was like, oh, who's the real hero of the Iliad, Achilles or Hector? And you had all these people talking about how it was Hector, and I was just like, no, Achilles is the hero of the Iliad, but you're looking at this from the wrong context. The Iliad is a parable. It's a story about the destructive force of rage. And as Achilles is somebody with divine blood, his rage is greater than anyone else's, and rage is his most divine characteristic by Greek mythological standards, because the Olympians are very petty and rageful people. Like they do crazy stuff for the dumbest reasons.
Oh yeah, well they're a band of rebels.
Absolutely. And so the whole point of the Iliad is to showcase how rage gets Achilles nothing, but then to also showcase its destructive force. In its passive form, Achilles refuses to fight for the Greeks because his pride has been spurned by Agamemnon. And as a result, hundreds of Greeks die. And he makes sure that this happens. He goes and he talks to his mom and he tells her that, oh, these people have done me wrong. You know that I've given up everything to be here. I know that you carry favor with Zeus. Plead to him and ask him if he will make sure that the Greeks lose every battle until they come calling my name home, like at begging me to come back. And so Thetis agrees. She does this, and Zeus does it as well. Like he makes sure that the Greeks lose time after time, and as a result, hundreds and hundreds of Greeks die. And then Patroclus dies. And that rage goes from being passive to active, because now he has a reason to hate the Trojans, specifically Hector. And so Achilles then goes through and becomes a horror movie monster for the last half of the book. And like they show it in Troy, but it's still very toned down, where he drags Hector's body around the city of Troy. In the Iliad, Achilles chases Hector around the city multiple times, kills droves of people, fights a local river god, and then when he finally catches up to Hector, Hector gets tricked into facing him. Their fight lasts maybe 2 seconds. And then there's way more detail on what Achilles does to Hector's body. You know, he drills holes through his ankles and pulls a girdle through it and ties it to the back of his chariot. He has his horses, who are immortal Olympian stock, go ride Hector's body around the city of Troy on his chariot 9 times, one for every year of the war that they've been there. And then he sticks dogs on it. And like all of this stuff he's doing because he's angry, not just at Hector, but really himself. But at that point, Hector's dead, and Achilles can't self-harm. So what does he do? He's just constantly trying to make it worse on Hector's body because he has no other outlet. And the Iliad ends with a conversation.
It's a hell of a bedtime story.
Yeah, of course. But the beauty of the Iliad is how it ends, and this is where, as I said, it's a parable, because the story of the Iliad ends with Priam coming and begging Achilles for his son's body back, and Achilles completely breaking down and realizing that everything was his fault and that he's lost everything because of himself. And so he agrees to give Priam his son's body back. He gives Hector's body back to Priam. He hosts a feast for Priam while they're, cleaning up Hector's body, and brokers a 10-day truce to ensure that Troy can mourn the loss of its fallen son, and that the Greek camp can carry out the funeral games of Patroclus as well. And so you have these two things that come to head where Achilles is finally able to let go of his rage. And don't get me wrong, Achilles is a badass. There are so many cool things that he does in the Iliad, but they don't happen until the end. Because the whole point of the story is showcasing the destructive force of rage. And in that aspect, Achilles is the hero in that he is the focus of the story. He's flawed, tragically so, and he knows that he's going to die. And that's kind of his recompense for everything that happens in that book, is that he's not going home and he knows it. I've always found him incredibly fascinating. And the more that I've gotten to learn about Achilles by studying, obviously reading the Iliad, which I've read dozens of times at this point, reading the Odyssey, specifically the sections in the underworld where Achilles is talking to Odysseus about wishing he had chosen a different path in life, to even seeing the play, reading the plays like Iphigenia at Aulis, which is a personal favorite of mine, which I think showcases Achilles at his most noble in the entire Trojan War, which is, of course, before a single battle happens, and he's still a kid. And I think that's the other really interesting part that really isn't tapped into much with most adaptations, is that Achilles leaves for Troy between the ages of 13 and 16 years old, if you're going off of mythological timeline. So by the time of the Iliad, he's at max 26. Imagine if that was your entire preteen through teenage years, your entire adolescence is you fighting a war. Not just fighting a war, but being told you are the best warrior in the Greek army. And think about how that would affect your psychology. He's a very fascinating character.
Now, Iliad, fact or fiction? Or a little bit of both?
I would say somewhere in the middle. Prior to the 20th century, people had kind of written the Trojan War off as a fairy tale. And then the archaeologist Schliemann, he was an aspiring archaeologist, and a lot of modern archaeologists will call him a con man, and I don't think that that's fair. But he decided that he was going to prove that these stories were real, and so he used the Iliad and the description of where Troy was supposed to be to go find Troy, and he did. I think that, are the characters Agamemnon, Achilles, Nestor, Odysseus, Diomedes, Ajax, Telamon, are these guys real people? Maybe. More than likely more of a poetic archetype, derived on Greek concepts of arete that have kind of get retroactively informed. But we also have to think about how, prior to Herodotus, how we preserved our history. And that was through oral tradition. That was through passed down stories. So, who knows? The real answer is we don't know, and we never will. We have lost more information on antiquity than we will ever have of it. And that's one of the things that makes it so appealing when you're the farther back in history you go, the more like fantasy it becomes, because you're just like, well, there's no real way to verify any of this, and we will never be able to.
Yeah. What always fascinates me is the stuff that survives.
Yeah.
And even when it survives, it goes through massive amounts of revision and the game of telephone across thousands of years.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that's the thing, is that I always view a lot of these kinds of characters as like composite characters of various people, personality traits, and then throw in a little bit of artistic license, perhaps, and the storytelling to really spice it up. But it really is difficult to say that it's 100% fiction. It's all myth. It's all made up.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is I think that there's so much archaeology that showcases that whether it was as large of a conflict as Homer depicted as a fleet of 1,000 ships, probably a poetic hyperbole. But there was absolutely a war there, and we have more than enough. We have more than enough to substantiate that.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of things, especially from ancient history, for what we have accepted as the truth at this point, as fact. There's all kinds of things in there that sound fantastical, and you can't really wrap your head around it, especially the scale of it, or the technology of the time being what it was, or the level of the armies and the people involved, and the expanse and the space. I think it's difficult for us, even having modern warfare to reference. It's another thing entirely.
Because it's a completely different animal. Warfare of that age is a completely different animal. I think it was Dan Carlin. If you've never listened to any of Dan Carlin's
so much more personal
podcasts, is awesome. And he did this. I want to say it was part of his Kings of Kings series, when he was focusing on the rise and fall of the Achaemenid Persian dynasty. But he talks about the Battle of Marathon at one point, and he's just like, if you could choose to fight in the trenches of World War I, or in a hoplite shield wall at Marathon, which would you pick? It's I think I'd probably take the trenches. Shell shock and everything like that. Yeah, that sucks, but it's something that's familiar, right? We've seen how modern war affects, current veterans and everything like that. And there's World War I is close enough where we might be able to handle it. But could you imagine standing in a line covered in armor having to fight for hours on end and seeing like your buddy get a spear through his face, and then
Yeah,
you're
it
like
really is
gutting
like
somebody.
pick which circle of hell you want to stay in.
Yeah, and like that's
Ugh.
like the crazy thing, and you know, the Greeks. It's very interesting because you look at the Iliad, and even at its most graphic, it's still pretty. Like the fights can be described as pretty tame at times, and there's a lot of theory as to a lot of because even when you look at like the Greek tragedies and plays, you don't have action sequences. All of the action happens off screen, like off camera.
Yeah, it's largely
And
the drama that's portrayed in the
yes, and so
conversation.
there's a lot of theory out there with more contemporary modern historians that a reason for that is because they didn't want to effectively trigger the audience. Because it's like, yeah, we all know what war is like. Nobody wants to revisit that. Like, we do enough of that stuff when we are trying to kill one another, which the Greeks did at a professional capacity every year. Like, you know, that the funniest thing about Greek history is that the Persians effectively figured out how to beat the Greeks, and that you don't fight the Greeks, you just let them fight themselves, and you just fund aside. And that's literally what the Peloponnesian War was.
Why are we this way, Michael? human beings. Why do we do this?
I don't know. We're dumb.
Thousands and thousands of years. Why? What are we so afraid of and territorial of? And you know, we run out of resources here, or we get jealous of someone else's resources there, and then you know, one thing leads to another, and we're killing each other. And when it gets really weird for me is when you get kind of along the lines of like modern warfare, where you have people who are in charge and they have an idea and the other side has this other idea, and they might be diametrically opposed ideas, but instead of just having these two assholes face off and kill each other, they command
get everyone else
other
to do
people to do it, and whoever has the most people standing wins the argument. It's the craziest thing.
Yep. I certainly don't disagree. It's fascinating, but it's also one of those things that get you to scratch your head. It's like, why can't you guys just like
why
have
can't
a
we all just get
conversation?
along?
It's just whatever.
Or why can't we at least even agree to disagree? You know, all right, I don't like you. I don't agree with you. You go do your thing. I'm going to go do mine. This planet is big enough for the both of us. But it's one of those things where, and I don't have the answer for it. And it's not like I live a completely pacifistic life. I've gotten into fights in my lifetime. I know emotion can rise. I know that you can sometimes be up against someone who there's no way out of the situation except standing your ground.
Absolutely.
But it's one of those things of what's gone wrong with the individual who can't see that you don't need to do this right now. You know, just walk away, calm down, get on with your day. It's very interesting.
Yeah. No, I completely agree.
It's very, very crazy. But that's what I think is compelling about these kinds of stories, right?
Yeah.
And that this is why we still talk about these things thousands of years later. Like the fact that you're on Twitter arguing with someone about an ancient Greek myth and the interpretation of the individuals and the events. That's pretty crazy. I don't think the ancient Greeks, I don't think Homer would have thought that, you know,
I mean, it's
that would have happened.
It's crazy because like when you look at, there is so much argument even in like Greek when you look at like Greek history, there is so much debate over certain things that are in like Homer's Iliad and the Odyssey between character dynamics, timelines of events, you know, it's very funny because in modern history, a lot of modern contemporary historians frown upon Herodotus as this guy that kind of over embellishes, and it doesn't really cling to accuracy. But back in his day, like, this guy was like a legit, like he is the top of his field, and you would have arguments between him and why am I blanking on his name? Other prominent. There is another, like there are effectively two major Greek historians of that period, and one is now modern contemporary historians like, oh, this guy is probably the closer to the truth. Why am I blanking on his name? This is gonna kill me.
I'm just gonna throw out random Greek names. Aristotle, Plato.
No. I want to say it's Demosthenes, but I don't think that that's right.
That could be right. That could be right. Chat, if you're aware of any other ancient Greek historians or figures that this might make sense. This Mad Libs of ancient.
I'm going Greek. To Thucydides. There we go.
Okay, there you go.
Boom.
Your ancient Greek is better than mine.
Oh, I'm not gonna lie. I used a search engine. I was just like, I'm looking up ancient Greek historians, and I know I'll recognize it as soon as I see it.
Hey, that's what they're there for.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting to see the debate that still goes on so actively among all kinds of different ancient civilizations, not just the Greeks, obviously. And we're still trying to dissect and figure it out and discern, like, well, what actually occurred, and if some of this occurred, how the hell did they do some of this? Like, just the scale, the scope, trying to envision the technology they had, what life was like for them. It's interesting because we should be looking back and being like, oh yeah, it happened. Who cares? And moving forward. But instead, we are so just completely mystified, I think, by all of that. And I think it's like a part of us knows because we're always just like a thread away. We're like one really bad day away from going back into that time period.
I mean, I definitely agree. I think that one of the big reasons why there is so much fascination with history in general is, as people, individually, we have we have autonomy, right? We go and we do things, but when it comes down to us in groups, we end up following a lot of very similar patterns and cycles. And this is where obviously the idiom of those who don't learn from the past are doomed to repeat it. And you look at you look at it, and I think that a lot of people, especially right now, see a lot of the chaos going on, and they see a lot of stuff, and they find parallels to things that have happened in our past. And it's,
oh sure, yeah,
I think that there's definitely a large part of that that's at play as well.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't changed all that much in our existence.
No.
Like the superficialities have changed drastically in some respects. Our technology has either evolved or devolved, depending on your point of view, I suppose. But like, as people go, like, we all kind of want relatively the same things that people wanted 5,000 years ago.
Yep.
You care about what you care about, and in some cases you'll fight to the death to defend it and keep it that way.
Absolutely.
So it is still all very relatable, and it's interesting to see how, even though so much time has passed and we think we're kind of on this linear track of progress, of how little progress we've actually made.
Goodness, sorry about that.
That's okay. How long have you been having the cough? there?
About a week. Believe it or not, this is actually like the best it's been for like
oh wow.
Week.
Well, I hope you get better soon.
Yeah,
is it like allergies? Is it actually like you got some kind of cold?
What ended up happening, I think, is we had a barbecue this past Sunday, and my nephew was over, and he was very snotty, and I was carrying him a bit because his dad was running the barbecue. Like my brother was doing the barbecuing and everything like that, and he wanted to go down there, but like he's 2, so that's not happening. And so I think I fell for one of the classic blunders of picking up the Petri dish, and I've been paying for it all week.
It's crazy how much those little kid germs will kick your ass, you know?
Oh man,
you'd think like we'd be immune to anything they could throw at us.
No, and I've got a 7-year-old myself, and I think back to when he was this age, and like I would get sick all the time.
Man.
When he was like 2, 3, 4, because between when he would just get normally sick, I would usually catch that. But like, where it was really bad was whenever there was a bug that went around his daycare, and then it would come back and I'd get it. And so I was getting sick like all the time. And then he's gotten older, obviously, and kids are still gross, but they get like progressively less gross as they get older. And so James doesn't get near as sick anymore. So I don't get near as sick anymore.
Man. Well, I do hope you feel better. Now, let's take a quick look and a rundown through your campaign. We got about maybe around 10 minutes or so left before the hour is up. So right now you're on Kickstarter. Was there any active thought as to why Kickstarter specifically for the platform?
Yeah, so I like most of my career I've used Indiegogo, and they had done well by me up until the last couple of years, where we've done a couple of projects that have gotten shadow banned, and it's hurt all of them. And so I kind of had a last straw moment for the Embrace 2 when we got shadow banned within the first like 24 hours.
Wow.
And they wouldn't get back to me about anything. So I was just
why are they doing that? All they're doing is hurting themselves.
And I agree. And
Along
so
with you,
I made a decision. Okay, I'm not going to use Indiegogo anymore. And so we did Kickstarter, and it's going pretty well actually. Like there have definitely been some moments where like I was expecting like where we would hit dry patches, or we would have certain people cancel pledges or what have you, which is always like the most frustrating thing about that platform.
Yeah.
But we have also been able to maintain a pretty steady amount of people on the campaign, which gives me a lot of optimism. I think that, the other big mistake that we made is we ran it for as long as we did, when Kickstarter is really geared towards FOMO as a marketing tool. But this is only like my second or third Kickstarter that I've run. So it's been a learning experience, but I'm still very happy with how it's turned out. I really think that I expect that within the next week we'll probably clear 6, maybe even get up to 7K. If we're able to get up to 8K, I'll be very happy, because I'll be able to literally fund the next book, as well as fulfill everything. Like I'll have everything good to go.
Yeah, you got a lot of different options on here for perks. You got shirts, you got the book, you got all kinds of other merch as well.
And we've got really good priced original art, is like insanely good priced.
Nice. Now, do you remember how did you perform on Indiegogo the first time around?
So for Elysian Fields issue 0, which I don't think is a fair thing to compare it to, because it was a very much lightning in a bottle moment. It was like right at the beginning of crowdfunding, where like everyone was getting the stimulus checks. People were just looking to throw money at stuff. So that one made a little under 9K.
Okay.
Over, I think, 80 days. Because we had our 60 and then we were in demand for, I think, another like month or two. So that was that one. And then Pyramid Gambit, we technically made over 8K, but we had less than 125 backers. So I've already had more backers than Pyramid Gambit. So I will take that. That is a huge win.
Yeah, always good to grow the backer total, you know.
I would much rather have
yeah
better backer counts than higher. Like, I mean, obviously you want both, but like if I were to choose between having, you know, 100 people backing me at $5 or 50 people backing me at 10, I'd rather the 5 with 100.
Oh yeah. You get the book out there to more people.
Yep.
And I mean, that's why you're doing it. You know, you're doing it so as many people as possible can get their hands on it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you got some really nice looking art on this campaign. It's
I appreciate it.
From what I see on Kickstarter, there's not a whole lot of stuff that's like this. It's usually titty books.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of that. Well, and like you when you do see books that are like this, they're from like legitimate industry professionals that have had that have their own bases and are using it for, like, you know, Sean Gordon Murphy did his Man of the Dead Zorro book. And so that made gangbusters and had, you know, obviously incredibly professional art because it's Sean Gordon Murphy. So like those are really the only books that I am competing with like that. And it's very much a whole thing of I just need to get out there and show more people, because every single time I go on to a show where I haven't been on before and we have new people that haven't seen me in the chat, they take one look at this book and I get at least 2 backers.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. It's a gorgeous book.
Oh yeah, it's a solid idea. It's a good looking book. Definitely. Now, for the plans on the second book, how long do you think the second book is going to take you?
Not long. As I said, Will is working on pencils. He's got 9 pages done. I would love to have the second book ready to go by the fall. It'd be cool to run it as either a winter campaign or a New Year campaign the next year.
Very
but
nice,
I'd like to keep things going. But yeah.
So you're aiming for like every year to put out a book or 2, depending on where it falls.
Absolutely.
And it's 44 pages of story on this issue, you said?
Yep. And that's going to be the aim for each book, is around 44 pages.
Nice. Very nice.
And we're printing in oversized, so it's 8.5 by 11 prestige format.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah, like that. So,
all right.
Fortunate thing about having your book done beforehand is I can actually show these bad boys off. So this is the Lava Holofoil edition of the A cover.
Oh, nice.
So we unlocked this at 4K. It's a little bit smaller than 8.5 by 11 because of how the foil is printed. The printer I used, and then we actually just unlocked this here today. So everyone who backed the V. Ken Marion B cover, those covers are being upgraded to a silver holofoil. And yeah, it's gorgeous. But
yeah, those are nice.
This is like the size of the book that you're getting. Everything is done. Yeah.
Wow. Man, what do you say to the person that maybe is like, that won't fit in my comic box? What am I supposed to do with that?
Hang it on your wall or put it in your bookshelf.
There you go.
I'm giving you a bag and board.
Yeah. You know, they make short boxes and stuff like that are the size for those. If people don't realize that, because I'm seeing a lot of people having like that kind of oversized comic on campaigns and things lately. And I've got a short box that's that size for magazines and whatnot, because I used to put like the when Wizard moved up their size. Yeah, and it kind of pissed me off because I loved it at comic size. But I was like, fine, I like the magazine enough that I stuck with it even when the size went up. And I got one of those boxes. So they make them. So if people are curious, you could always get a magazine size box, and those will fit perfectly in those if you're a comic book box person.
Absolutely. And I mean, I honestly, one of the big things that when I was deciding to reboot it, I knew I wanted to do the oversized, because with it being a battle book, I really wanted more space for the art to breathe on the page. And I would never go back on that. Like, it looks gorgeous.
Yeah, that's crazy. So that means when you open it up, you get a full 11 by 17 spread.
Yeah, hold on. I'll show one off here real quick.
It's a hell of a double pager.
Let's see. What's a good one? We'll do this. This is a pretty slick one.
Oh, yeah. Nice, man. Very nice. Yeah, that's looking good. Now I got a campaign on Fund My Comic right now, and I've had a couple other campaigns, like smaller ones, on there before. This is like probably the first, like, it's just on Fund My Comic, and they're doing right by me, and I'm liking the experience so far. There's a couple things where I'm like, okay, I hope that they take care of this. I hope they take care of that. Nothing that's too irksome. But have you ever considered?
Is such a fantastic guy, and I do plan on doing a Fund My Comic on Elysian Fields here in a little bit as well. And if we will also, because Kickstarter just started doing late pledges as well, so we will have late pledges available for the books on this too.
Oh, cool! Very nice. Yeah, I've noticed that like Indiegogo really, like, they won me over years ago because they kind of improved a lot of different things. You could have
and then they stopped,
and you had add-ons, and then they stopped, and then they started going like in reverse a little bit, and then when they started with the shadow banning, the random shadow banning, it seems like, and I'm lucky I never got shadow banned, but there's some people, especially, because at first I was like, well, maybe that's why they're shadow banning that person, but then you look at someone else and you're like, they're doing that, if not worse, and they're fine. Yeah. And then someone else will get shadow banned that you can't come up with an explanation. Nothing makes sense. And I don't know if there's a glitch in their system. I don't know if it's something screwy.
There are lots of theories about it where like Indiegogo tried to do stuff to streamline their UI in terms of like searching for people, and it's just completely backfired, and they have no idea how to fix it, and so they just ignore everyone.
Because even like their exploration tool, like to find something that's trending or whatever else,
you'll find projects that are like 6 years old and aren't even
horrible
open
now. It used to make more sense about like 6 or 7 years ago, and over the past like 3 years, it's just
gone downhill really bad.
Yeah.
Like, I remember when I was doing the Embrace one, it worked really well. It worked really well. You would you could actually gauge your metrics. You could see how your books were performing in terms of other comics. Like they would have like the trending comic section, and you'd be able to see what the top comic campaigns were and see, oh, my fiance's in the chat. Hi, beautiful.
Oh, there you go. All right. I was wondering why we had a female in the chat today.
I'm surprised that she got here this late.
We get several.
I would figure she'd be asleep at this point.
We get several ladies that come into the chat and partake and have conversation with us, but that one didn't look familiar to me, so that explains it. So hello. Well, Michael's been doing very good here. Now, you said that you are thinking about having a Fund My Comic campaign. It'll be for this book, like a kind of a second chance sort of.
We'll do a second chance, and I'm thinking about. So Luke Stone helped me a lot when I first got into comic. He actually lettered the 0 issue of Elysian Fields. He got me in touch with the printer. He's a very good friend of mine.
Oh, great! Okay.
And so I am probably going to have him do a Fund My Comic exclusive cover, and have that be on there as well.
All right, that's great, man. All right, so I'm glad to see that you reached your goal, and hopefully the sky's the limit at this point. So
I mean,
if anyone hasn't had a chance yet.
It's exciting. We, as you said, we funded, and we're like 3 stretch goals in. I really hope we end up between the 7-8K range, because then I have more than enough to fulfill and to invest into the next book and get it pretty much done to hit a fall window.
Awesome. Yeah, that's always the thing, right? We have all these ideas, all these stories you want to do, everything that you want to implement, but then reality comes crashing down. And sometimes if the support isn't there, and sometimes if it just really isn't there for one reason or the other, you got to just face it. You got to face the music.
Absolutely.
Be like, all right, well, I got 20 issues to tell, but looks like I'll just tell 4.
Well, like that's the whole thing is I'm going in with this with, as I said, I have everything mapped out for 30 issues. We're going to keep going until we can't go anymore. And if that means I only get through my first arc, I only get through my first arc. That will suck, but I think we'll be able to get legs. I think that what's going to end up happening is people are going to get this first book, and they're going to show it to all their friends and be like, yo, you need to get in on this. Like, this is insane.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll keep growing.
Well, especially too, isn't it like $15?
Yeah. And it should be noted that it's $15 for a physical and digital. So it's effectively, we have $5 digitals. So you're effectively getting the book for $10 and your $5 digital.
Yeah, that's pretty good considering that it's oversized, and you said that the covers are all like upgraded.
Yeah, for the first 2, and if we get to 6K, we'll be upgrading the third, a third cover as well. We'll
okay, I didn't see that. You got
the Hades cover to a rainbow holofoil. I have that one too.
Wow. Oh, hold on. Let's see here. Oh, look at that. Yeah. All right. Yes, that's great, man. Yeah, so if you guys haven't had a chance to jump in on the campaign yet, tonight is the perfect night for that. The link is in the description. It's in the chat. Cole says, I don't have any friends, but I'll tell strangers. There you go. And Cole wants to know, do you have a proof of the collector's box?
I don't have a physical proof of the collector's box. Those things are not cheap to have print individually. It's like $20-$30. So I always just buy those things in bulk when I do. But
yeah,
I will tell you this, Pack Lane does stellar work. I have I don't know if I've got my box from them for the Embrace in here, but we used them for this Shim Hack Embrace box that is just drop dead gorgeous. And like they do really good work, and it's going to be slick. And the collector's box you get, so there's 2 versions of that tier. There's the basic Coffer of Glory, which gets you all 4 variants of the book, 3 standees, the Achilles / t-shirt, and then obviously any stretch goal stuff that we have unlocked. But then there's the panoply upgrade, which gives you everything that I just mentioned, and then you also get metal cover editions of each variant. And we're only doing 20 of those.
When you say metal, you mean like actually metal?
Yeah, like they print the cover on metal and they like glue the comic to it. It's sick.
What the hell? Wow.
Yeah, no, like it looks great.
I'm over here doing newsprint comics. You're like, this comic is on metal. We also have an option for stone tablets.
Yes. Oh man, I would like it if I could. If
laser
I could
engraved into granite.
If I could make like a bronze tablet comic and have it like have it be like a joke of the I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but like the oldest customer complaint in the world was this cuneiform tablet about this bad tin merchant.
Oh yeah, that's like Sumerian stuff, right? Yeah.
Just have it be like that edition of the book, get that guy's name and be like like oh man, what's his name? It's something Nazir or something like that.
Oh man, that's great. Yeah, that would be fitting with this campaign, especially. Boy, oh boy, man.
Nasir. I knew it. The Nasir edition, just have it be like a crumpling piece of bronze.
Oh man. Well, one can dream.
Yes, of course. One can dream.
Yeah. But that's great stuff, man. So thank you so much for being here and talking about the campaign and having this conversation about ancient myth and legends. And I mean, sometimes I'm like, were they myths? Were they legends? I don't know. They are now, but maybe they weren't.
And I think that there is a lot of truth to them. And like, one of the other like really big popular, is it real or is it not, is obviously, Arthur in Britain, right? And like there are definitely elements of him that are fantastical. But I think that like when you actually go and you look at things, there was more than he is more than likely a real historical figure. It's one of those things where he likely wasn't a king. He was likely either a warlord or a, one of the last Roman governors of Britain before the fall. And he became romanticized by the Britons during that period where the Roman Empire had gone away. All of its infrastructure had gone away. And they were the people that were left were kind of abandoned, and this guy was probably, a glimmer of hope. So like it's very interesting.
Yeah. No, it's 100% true, man. We see it all the time now, even looking back at like the Old West and all the legendary figures that we have in the country, whether you want to call it Paul Bunyan or John Henry, all these different kinds of figures.
Isn't it crazy how like nobody uses those guys?
Well, there's one dude that's doing like Paul Bunyan versus Dracula. I think his name is John Colton.
That's insane.
And the title is very, it is what it is. It's right to the point. But the book has some pretty cool art.
I need to check that out. That sounds hilariously awesome.
Yeah, I forget exactly which platform it's on right now. If it's on Kickstarter, Indiegogo, or Fund My Comic. But I know
American Folklore has some like really cool stuff, and I don't feel like it gets near used enough.
Oh yeah.
Like John
yeah.
Henry is such a cool story.
Yeah.
And like outside of Steel in DC, who barely gets used for anything, you see like no reference to John Henry in like anything.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's such a compelling story for our time, especially because of the whole like man versus machine, man versus technology. And it just shows just like the will.
Could you imagine
human.
John Henry's reaction to AI?
Oh man, he'd die all over again. He'd be smashing that thing to bits.
Yeah,
you know, we're all trading so much for convenience. It's hitting a certain point where we're not mature enough to understand the power of this stuff. And especially the people behind it. I'd almost feel more comfortable, and we do have to end the show, but I almost feel more comfortable if it was actually sentient. Because it's not actually, artificially intelligent per se. It's being programmed to seem that way, but someone's doing the programming, and I don't really trust the people that are doing that programming. But that's about all I've got for the last minute of this show tonight. That's a whole other topic. But,
absolutely.
Thank you, man, again for being on here tonight.
It's been an immense pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. And everybody in the chat, thank you guys as well. Brian says that Paul Bunyan Dracula comic is on Fund My Comics. So there you go.
I will have to go check it out. That sounds awesome.
Yeah. All right, everyone. We'll catch you again on Saturday. I'm going to not be here tomorrow night. I'm going to be at Sci-Fi for Me during the day. And then tomorrow night, I'm going to be tinkering in the privacy of my own home, which is where I like to tinker. But it's going to be with a printer. And I'm going to be testing this printer out and having a lot of fun. And hopefully I got some stuff to show you guys on Saturday. I'll have a comics auction on this channel like I normally kind of do almost every Saturday night, 9 o'clock Eastern, auctioning off comics from my personal collection. So I hope to see you guys then and there. Until then, everybody have a wonderful night and an even better tomorrow. We'll see you soon.